Hello there, people of the internet. I'd like to talk about why the Mosin Nagant rifle is still extremely popular even today in 2024. This is a rifle design that came out in 1891. It's pretty on par with the bolt-action military rifles that were coming out at the time. 5-shot, basically a full power rifle cartridge by the standards of that particular time period. Original rifles were an extremely long length rifle. As a matter of fact, this is an M44 carbine that I'm showing on the screen, but what I have up there is an 1891 long rifle. This particular one is finished production. Can you guys see? Okay, you guys cannot see that on screen, but I do have a sling swivel, which really gives way to it being a finished production rifle. Or rather a Finnish refurbishment. It's a Russian-made rifle that was redone by the Finnish. But this right here is an 1891 long rifle, and it is so long that not only can I not fit it on screen, I literally cannot move it on the table because I got things in that direction and things in that direction. So you guys are just going to kind of see the receiver in that particular area. So we're going to use my M44 right here to kind of show off the Mosin Nagant rifle. 7.62x54R from a full-length Mosin. That's a 150 grain bullet approximately, typically around 147 grain or so. Traveling at about 2,800 or so feet per second. That puts it about on par with M2 Ball 30-06 or 7.62 NATO. It is a rimmed cartridge, so it definitely does have its issues. So whenever it comes to the Mosin Nagant, one of the reasons why these are so gosh darn popular is because there were a lot of them being sold in the United States for really, really cheaply for a long time. And this was a lot of people's first rifle. As a matter of fact, the Mosin Nagant was my first real rifle. I know I had 12 gauges and 22s before that, but whenever I went out and bought myself a Mosin, that was my first military surplus real rifle, and that's kind of what got me into the military surplus game. That was the same case for a lot of people who ended up dealing with this. Back then, you could pick up like a refurbished 9130 run-of-the-mill Mosin Nagant, like your most popular Russian-made Mosin variant, for about, I don't know, we'll call it 80 to 100 bucks, depending on condition, depending on where you get it, depending on shipping and transfer fees, etc., etc. But they were not expensive, and they fired ammunition that was also extremely inexpensive. I know back in the day I got myself a whole bunch of those 440 tins of ammunition, which is what we have right here. This is surplus 7.62x54 rimmed. I believe that this is light ball, 147 grain, or at least it should be. And this right here is what they would come packaged in. Little brown packages like this right here, which used to be extremely common to see and extremely cheap to get. But nowadays they're kind of becoming a, I don't want to use the term collectible, but they're becoming essentially a collectible, like getting your hands on surplus stuff like that right there. So the Mosin Nagant went from being a sub $100 rifle with dirt cheap ammo. You get the 440 tins for like 50 bucks all day, every day back in the day. As a matter of fact, I would go out and I'd get those wood boxes of 880 rounds of ammunition in those 2 tins. And I would pay like 80 bucks for that entire thing. And I'd go home and I would spend just literally months and months and months and months just shooting that thing every single day. I put a ridiculous amount of rounds through my Mosin. So they went from a dirt cheap rifle with dirt cheap ammunition to being much more expensive nowadays. Nowadays, if you're looking for a run-of-the-mill 9130, you're going to be paying about 500 bucks for the same exact thing that you would have gotten for about 80 bucks back in the day. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to why, supply and demand, just, I'll let you guys argue about that in the comments. That's not what this video is about. But there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who would very, very, very much like to see the Mosin Nagant go back down to that $80 price point. A lot of us really regret not buying more whenever they were at that price point, and we can't see the future. We can't determine when something is going to raise dramatically in price. We can't tell what's going to happen in the future. I'm sure that a lot of us, if we knew how much prices were going to raise on these rifles, we would have bought a lot more. I know I would have bought several crates of Mosins back in the day if I could have managed it. But a lot of us kind of regret not buying those Mosins back whenever they were cheap. And I've seen a lot of people try to make up for it now by buying Mosins nowadays whenever they can find them for fairly under the cost of what they would normally go for. Like if I find myself a Mosin going for $350 or less, then I would buy it. Like regardless of condition, unless it's just a complete absolute rust bucket, I'd probably end up picking up that Mosin just because they normally run about $500 nowadays. Anything more than that, and I would definitely have to nitpick it a little bit. But the desire to get a Mosin because you have the desire to want to have got a Mosin before, that's one of the reasons why I have seen a lot of people get Mosins. I've seen it with my own eyes on numerous occasions. Another big thing, nowadays there is a lot of video games and movies and whatnot that are getting more popular whenever it comes to World War II era of firearms and just interesting topics and stories and whatnot in World War II. And a lot of these guns are depicted inside of those video games and whatnot. And the Mosin Nagant is definitely one of the rifles that continuously pops up in that particular genre of pop culture. And as a result of that, there's a lot of newer people out there that want to go out and get these rifles, and they're willing to pay stupid amounts of money for them, but that's an argument for another topic. Just the upcoming generation that learned about these, know about these, they're learning about the history and whatnot behind these rifles, just from the media that they are experiencing. So we have a new influx of people wanting to get their hands on these rifles. And the main reason why a lot of people, even nowadays, want to get their hands on the Mosins is because the Mosins, although they are more expensive than they used to be, they're a lot cheaper still even now to this day than a lot of your other very desirable firearms out there. Like I know a lot of people want to get themselves a German Kar 98 for various reasons. And that German Kar 98 is going to be like 3 times the price of the Mosin. So the Mosin is just going to be something that people can go out and get for a cheaper cost. So we have the regret of buying the Mosin, or regret of not buying Mosins whenever you could have, and so you're making up for it now. We have people wanting to buy Mosins and buying them because they're cheaper than the other options because of pop culture. Another fairly substantial reason as to why the Mosin is so popular is going to be nostalgia. That's honestly why the Mosin is so popular with me. I grew up shooting this gun. I shot it a lot. There's a lot of people out there who have the Mosin as their first rifle, and they still have their Mosin. They got it for dirt cheap back in the day, and they still go out and they use it. Like, that's the case with a whole lot of people here in the United States. Mosin was their first rifle or their cheapest rifle or the rifle that they went to enjoy because it was just so inexpensive to use back in the day. And that nostalgia is just one of the things that makes people go back to the Mosin every single time. I have had a lot of people tell me that they prefer the Mosin over basically every other bolt-action rifle out there because it's what they knew, it's what they grew up on, etc., etc. That is a form of nostalgia. So if the Mosin is your go-to pick because you have a Mosin and you know the Mosin and you like the Mosin because it's what you got the most time on, that, like I said, is a form of nostalgia. Another big thing that has the Mosin so popular nowadays is going to be, I don't want to use the term social media again because that kind of falls into pulp culture, but I'm going to say social media influencers and content creators. With how many of these rifles there are out there on the market and how many people manage to get their hands on them for dirt cheap here in the United States, there is a massive, 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 massive surplus of Mosin Nagant videos out there on the internet that you can find, and like you could literally watch Mosin videos all day, every day, and probably spend the rest of your life watching them and still not watch all of them. It's absolutely insane the amount of content out there for this rifle just because of the amount of rifles that came into the US for dirt cheap and the amount of people that got their hands on them. I know I've made my fair share of Mosin Nagant rifles, or Mosin Nagant rifle videos here on this YouTube channel. I've shot them, I've torture tested them, I've played with them, I've used them for hunting, practical purposes, camping. I've shown tips and tricks of what you can do with Mosins. I've just made my own fair share of Mosin Nagant videos. As a matter of fact, I'm literally making one right now that I'm talking about it. I think that those are probably going to be the biggest reasons why the Mosin is still popular. There's a lot of them. People used to get them dirt cheap. They want to get them dirt cheap again. So they're kind of trying to find deals on Mosins now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. Nostalgia, tons of nostalgia. I know, I've been looking for a spam can of 7.62x54R to get my hands on, but I don't want to spend $1 around. I don't want to spend the same amount of money on old corrosive surplus ammo that could also get me the same amount, if not more, of new production, non-corrosive ammo. That would definitely be the better option. That's one of the reasons why I don't really buy surplus 7.62x54R anymore, because I can get new production non-corrosive stuff for the same price or oftentimes cheaper. But I am looking to get myself another spam can just because of that nostalgia purpose. I mean, sitting there, opening the spam can, smelling it almost smells like nail polish remover that comes out of the spam can. They got that little tab in there that you pull your first batch of ammunition out, bring it to the range. You got these copper washed full metal jackets. Sometimes you got the ones that got the little steel, or not steel, the little silver tip on them, indicating that they are steel core. Those are really, really nice. It's just a bit of nostalgia. Lots of reasons why the Mosin is still popular. I'm sure that it's going to continue to still be very popular in the United States for many, many years to come. But we'll have to see where that one goes. Hopefully, it becomes less popular and the prices drop a little bit. That would be nice. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you on the next episode.
Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.